Hello. Today I'm going to talk about kind of an overview of our master's program and what I've learned so far and kind of how I put it into practice. So one of the first classes we took was LTD 570, Advanced Teaching with Technology. The biggest with Professor McDowell, the biggest takeaway that I got from that, my sort of favorite thing from that class, was screencasting. I had never screencasted before, and so it was a really great tool that I now have in my arsenal, and I was able to implement it almost right away in my classes, which was really great, especially with the freshman research paper, because freshmen have a tough time listening for very long, and they also when they miss right in the middle of research papers, it's really hard. So to be able to screencast some of the steps and have it available to them, even to those kids who didn't miss but maybe needed a little bit of a refresher, it was really great. In Dr. Pang's Research Diverse Learner class, the biggest takeaway that I got from that um, was about Notting's ethics of care, and that like building a rapport with students and is so important, and students knowing that they're cared about when they come into your classroom is so important. It seems like a little bit of a common sense thing, but looking back in my educational career, I can honestly say that I'm not sure that any of my teachers really cared. And I know that I sat in classes for a whole year and the teacher never learned my name. So it wasn't something that hugely affected me or my performance, because I was real quiet and I was lucky enough to have like a really good support system at home. But that's not true for all kids. And so having an adult that cares about them is so important. And this is something that I have always taken to heart. And maybe I care a little bit too much about my students, if there is such a thing. But I, I feel like like soar when they succeed, and I fall with them when they fall. And so this was just a really good sort of reiteration of sort of the things that I already believe. The next class was with Professor Dewsbury, measuring and assessing student achievement. One thing that I took away from this class was how incredible like the unconscious bias is in testing. And he mentioned this cultural validity test, which is like taking students' cultures into account when coming up with a test is kind of what it's like. But I guess I'd never thought of that before. When you give a test, you give the same test to all kids, and I try to make my test very straightforward. Like no trick questions. I always tell them I'm not here to trick you. But this was something that really sort of opened my eyes. One of the next classes we took over summer was TE 790, Teacher Education and Multilinguistic Acquisition, with Professor Aquino. One thing that I really enjoyed his class, but one thing that I really took away from it was like it was eye-opening, the biases and inequities in English and in English language development, and that's what I teach. It's like subconsciously biased against most students, and that's kind of incredible to me. And so it's something that I am more conscious of, and something that I am working on sort of combating. I'm not sure that I'm real good at it yet, but I'm trying, and I suppose that's about as good as I can do. Um, any thoughts would be greatly appreciated. Um, the next class that we took in the fall was with Professor Saltzman Martin, teaching critical thinking with technology. And again, I really enjoyed this class. I liked that she had us do blog posts and personal journals. They were really cathartic. Um, I had two classes of freshmen and one class of juniors, and um, with one of my classes of freshmen, I had 9 sophomore repeat students, and it was the last class of the day, and it was really tough because those students kind of had checked out before they came in. So I had these brand new freshmen babies, and then I had these sophomores who'd already done this at least once. Some of them had already done it twice because they did it in summer school. And so the personal journals really helped a lot because I was able to sort of get out kind of what I was feeling. And then she gave great feedback, which was so helpful. But another thing that I took away was one of the first assignments that we did, we talked about the digital divide. And the article that we read and had to respond to was about how, um, basically that this digital divide is present, and it'll be present even if the internet is free, because students in low income areas don't have access to high speed internet and good computers when they go to school. So it doesn't really matter if they have it at home because they don't get it at school. And so this divide is ever increasing, and that was really eye opening to me. The last class that we took in fall was inclusive education, again with Professor Dewsbury. Um, this was um, this was a great class. I enjoyed this class. And one thing, maybe not my biggest takeaway, but one thing that I took away from this class is that inclusive education covers more than just students with special needs. It's not, which is what I always thought it was, and sort of like it's sort of pitched like that. Like we need to include these students with special needs, and they need to have like the same education as everybody else. If they can be in a regular classroom, they should be in a regular classroom. But I never thought about it also including like my EL kids, and how important it is to include my EL kids and making sure that this inclusive education, that they are receiving the best, and being um, pushed to their highest level of achievement, which unfortunately doesn't happen a lot with EL kids. We worry about teaching them like very basic things, not taking into account that yes, they need to know those very basic things, but we are dealing with 15, 16, 17, sometimes 18-year-old students that have a higher intellectual ability than, like these are my pants and these are my shoes. So being able to ensure that they are equally included is so important. I look forward to the rest of the program and sort of seeing what else I get to learn. Thanks so much.